Joshua Zirkzee heading for January exit. The full story behind Manchester United's £30 million decision. Welcome back to United Daily Updates, your number one trusted source for everything Manchester United. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We bring you daily news, honest analysis, and the real stories behind the headlines. No clickbait, no made-up rumors, just the facts and our genuine take on what's happening at our beloved club. Today we need to talk about something that's been developing over the past few weeks. Something that tells us a lot about where Manchester United are heading and what the plans might be for January. We're talking about Joshua Zirkzee and the reports that he could be leaving Old Trafford just months after arriving. This isn't just another transfer rumor. This is a story that reveals how Ruben Amorim is thinking. It shows us what United's strategy might be going forward. And it raises some important questions about whether the club made a mistake or whether they're just being ruthless in pursuit of success. So let's dive deep into this. We'll look at what's being reported, what it means, why it's happening, and what United fans should think about all of this. By the end, you'll have a complete understanding of the Zirkzee situation and what it tells us about Manchester United right now. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's break this down properly. The news that got everyone talking. Here's what we know. According to multiple reports, Manchester United have set a price tag of around £30 million for Joshua Zirkzee. They're willing to let him leave in the January transfer window. Several clubs are already interested. West Ham have made initial contact. Brighton are monitoring the situation. Aston Villa admire his profile. Italian clubs including Roma, Juventus, and Milan are all keeping an eye on things. This is significant news for several reasons. First, Zirkzee only joined United fairly recently. He came with decent expectations. He was seen as someone who could add something different to the attack. Now he's already being shown the exit door. Second, £30 million isn't a huge amount in today's market. For a 24-year-old forward with his ability, you'd normally expect more. The fact that United are willing to sell at this price suggests they really want him gone. Third, the timing is interesting. January is normally a difficult window to do business. Clubs don't like selling mid-season. But United are actively pushing for this to happen quickly. What's going on here? Why is this happening? And what does it all mean? Let's start from the beginning. Who is Joshua Zirkzee? For anyone who might not be completely familiar with him, let me give you some background. Joshua Zirkzee is a Dutch forward who's 24 years old. He's tall, technically gifted, and has good movement. He's the kind of player who can link up play, bring others into the game, and also finish chances himself. Before joining United, Zirkzee had a really good spell at Bologna in Italy. He wasn't just scoring goals. He was playing an important role in how they played. Bologna had a good season last year and Zirkzee was a big part of that success. When United signed him, there was genuine excitement among some fans. Here was a player who'd proven himself in Serie A. A player with different qualities to what United already had. A player who could offer something new. He's also Dutch, which matters because United have had some great Dutch players over the years. From Ruud van Nistelrooy to Robin van Persie to more recently players like Donny van de Beek. There's always been a connection between United and Dutch football. Zirkzee came to Old Trafford as someone who was supposed to add depth and quality to the forward line. He wasn't necessarily expected to be the main striker right away, but he was expected to contribute. He was expected to push for a place in the team. So what went wrong? Why is he now facing an exit just months after arriving? The problem? No game time. The simple answer is that Zirkzee hasn't been playing. When a footballer isn't getting minutes, everything becomes difficult. You can't show what you can do. You can't build confidence. You can't develop understanding with your teammates. You're just sitting on the bench watching others play. According to reports, Zirkzee has been struggling for minutes under Ruben Amorim this season. Now, we need to be clear about something here. Amorim only recently took over at United. So when we talk about Zirkzee not playing under him, we're talking about a relatively short period of time. But in that short time, it's become clear that Zirkzee doesn't fit into Amorim's plans. At least not right now. At least not as things stand. The arrival of other forwards has made things even harder for him. United have brought in Matheus Cunha, Benjamin Sesko, and Brian Bumo. These players have pushed Zirkzee further down the pecking order. When you're fourth or fifth choice in your position, you know you're in trouble. For a young player trying to establish himself, this is a nightmare scenario. You need games. You need opportunities. You need the manager to trust you. If you don't have those things, your career stagnates. And for Zirkzee, there's an added complication. The 2026 World Cup is coming. As a Dutch international, He needs to be playing regularly to stay in the national team picture. If he's sitting on United's bench for the next year, he can kiss his World Cup dreams goodbye. This is why the reports say he wants a solution in January. He can't afford to waste time. He needs to be playing football at the highest level. If that can't happen at United, it needs to happen somewhere else. Why doesn't he fit Amorim's system? This is the key question. What is it about Zirkzee that doesn't work for Amorim? Is he not good enough? Does he not fit the style of play? Is it just bad luck with timing? Ruben Amorim has a very specific way of playing. If you've watched his Sporting Lisbon team, you know what to expect. He plays with 3 at the back. He wants his forwards to press intensely. He wants pace and directness. He wants players who can run in behind defenses. Zirkzee's strengths are a bit different. He's more of a technical player. He likes to drop deep and link play. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's intelligent in his movement. But he's not the quickest. He's not the most direct. He's not really a high-intensity pressing forward. This doesn't mean Zirkzee is a bad player. It just means his qualities don't match what Amorim wants from that position. It's a style thing, not an ability thing. Think about it like this. You can have a really good key, but if it doesn't fit the lock, it doesn't matter how good it is. Zirkzee might be a good player, but if he doesn't fit the system, he won't succeed at United under this manager. Amorim clearly has a vision for how he wants his team to play. He's brought in players who fit that vision. Cunha, Sesko, and Bumo are all different types of forwards compared to Zirkzee. They're faster, more direct, better at pressing. They fit what Amorim wants. From the manager's perspective, this is just being professional. He's been hired to get results. He has a way of playing that he believes in. He needs players who can execute that way of playing. If Zirkzee can't do that, keeping him around doesn't help anyone. The business side, why £30 million? Let's talk about money because in modern football, we always have to talk about money. United are apparently asking for around £30 million for Zirkzee. Is that a good price? Is it fair? What does it tell us? First, we need to consider what United paid for him. The exact fee hasn't been confirmed publicly, but reports suggested it was somewhere in the region of £40 to £45 million. If that's accurate, then selling him for £30 million represents a loss. Taking a loss on a player after such a short time is never ideal. It suggests the transfer didn't work out. It suggests someone made a mistake in the recruitment process. Either the player wasn't properly scouted, or the manager's needs weren't properly understood, or circumstances changed. But here's the thing. Sometimes taking a loss is the smart move. If you've made a mistake, the worst thing you can do is compound it by keeping the player around and paying his wages while he doesn't play. Zirkzee is on a contract until 2029. That's several more years of wages that United would have to pay if they keep him. If he's not playing, if he's not contributing, that's money being wasted. Better to take a £10 or £15 million loss now than to waste 3 or 4 years of wages on a player who's not part of the plans. The £30 million asking price also makes sense from a market perspective. Yes, Zirkzee is talented. Yes, he's only 24. Yes, he did well at Bologna. But he's now damaged goods to some extent. He's a player who couldn't make it at Manchester United. That affects his value. Clubs know that United want to sell. That weakens United's negotiating position. When you're desperate to move someone on, you can't ask for top dollar. You have to be realistic. £30 million is enough to recoup a decent chunk of what United spent. It's enough to reinvest in other players. It's enough to make the deal worthwhile for United. But it's not so expensive that interested clubs will walk away. It's a pragmatic price. And that tells us United are being pragmatic about this whole situation. Who wants him? The interested clubs. One of the positive things about this story is that there's genuine interest in Zirkzee. He's not a player that nobody wants. Multiple clubs are looking at him. That's good for everyone involved. Let's break down the interested parties and what each option might mean for Zirkzee. West Ham United have apparently made initial contact. They want to understand the financials and test the waters. For Zirkzee, West Ham would offer Premier League football and a chance to prove himself in England. They're a club with ambition, decent facilities, and they play in front of big crowds. The problem with West Ham is they're also struggling a bit this season. They've had their own issues. Would Zirkzee be walking from one difficult situation into another? Would he get the game time he needs? These are questions he'd have to consider. Brighton are also interested. Brighton are a really well-run club. They have a clear identity. They play good football. They develop players well. For someone like Zirkzee, Brighton could be ideal. But here's the catch. The reports say that competition for minutes at Brighton would be more intense. They already have good forwards. Zirkzee wouldn't be guaranteed to start every week. He might face the same problem he has at United, just at a different club. Aston Villa are another option. Villa are doing well under Unai Emery. They're playing in Europe. They need squad depth. Villa see Zirkzee as someone who could add depth behind their first-choice options. That phrase, depth behind their first-choice options, is key. It suggests Villa don't see him as a guaranteed starter either. He'd be a rotation player. Is that enough for someone who needs regular football ahead of a World Cup? Maybe not. Then we have the Italian clubs. This is where things get really interesting. Roma are keen, but they have financial fair play issues. They can only offer a loan deal. They'd cover his wages and include an option to make it permanent in the summer. For Zirkzee, going back to Italy on loan might be the perfect solution. He knows the league. He was successful there before. A loan would give him 6 months to play regularly and rebuild his confidence. Juventus and Milan are also watching. These are two of the biggest clubs in Italy. If either of them came in with a serious offer, it would be hard for Zirkzee to turn down. Playing for Juventus or Milan is a dream for many players. There's even mention of Como being interested. Como are a newly ambitious club managed by Cesc Fabregas. They want to make a splash. Signing someone like Zirkzee would definitely do that. But the reports suggest their finances make it unlikely. So Zirkzee has options. That's the good news. The question is, which option is the right one for him? What does Zirkzee want? This is important because it's not just about what clubs want or what United want. Zirkzee is a person with his own career to manage. What does he actually want? According to the reports, he wants a solution in January. He wants to move away from Old Trafford. That's clear. He's not happy sitting on the bench. He wants to play football. But beyond that, what's his priority? Is it staying in the Premier League to prove he can succeed in England? Is it going back to Italy where he knows he can perform? Is it joining the biggest club possible regardless of playing time? Is it going somewhere that guarantees him starts? If I was advising Zirkzee, I'd tell him to prioritize playing time above everything else. He's 24 years old. He has a World Cup coming up. He needs to be on the pitch week in, week out. That's more important than prestige. That's more important than money. That's more important than anything else right now. A loan move to Roma makes a lot of sense from that perspective. He'd go back to a league where he's comfortable. He'd play regularly. He'd rebuild his confidence and his reputation. Then in the summer, he'd have options. If things went well, Roma might make it permanent. If not, other clubs would be interested. A permanent move to Brighton or West Ham is riskier. What if he goes there and faces the same problems? What if he still doesn't play? Then he's wasted another 6 months and his World Cup hopes are in serious trouble. Of course, we don't know what Zirkzee is actually thinking. These are just educated guesses based on what makes sense for his career. But one thing is certain. He needs to make the right decision here. This is a crucial moment for him. What this tells us about Amorim. The Zirkzee situation is revealing about Ruben Amorim and how he operates as a manager. It tells us several important things about what we can expect from him at Manchester United. First, it shows he's decisive. He's not going to keep players around just because the club spent money on them. He's not sentimental. He looks at what he needs, assesses what he has, and makes tough calls. Zirkzee doesn't fit, so Zirkzee has to go. It's that simple in Amorim's mind. This is actually a good quality in a manager. Too many managers hold on to players for too long because they don't want to admit a mistake or because they feel bad about ending someone's dream. Amorim doesn't have that problem. He's ruthless in pursuit of what he thinks is best for the team. Second, it shows he has a clear vision. Amorim knows exactly how he wants his team to play. He knows what qualities he needs from each position. If a player doesn't have those qualities, they're not going to get chances no matter who they are or how much they cost. This clarity is important. United have struggled in recent years partly because there hasn't been a clear identity or style. Different managers have wanted different things. The squad has been a mess of players signed for different systems. Amorim is trying to fix that by being very specific about what he wants. Third, it shows his thinking long-term. He could keep Zirkzee around as a backup option. But what's the point? Zirkzee won't develop if he's not playing. His value will decrease. His confidence will drop. Better to move him on now, bring in someone who fits better, and build the team properly. Fourth, and this is important, it shows that Amorim has power at United. He's able to make these calls. The club is backing him. They're not forcing him to use players he doesn't want. That's a good sign. It suggests United have learned from past mistakes where managers didn't have full control over the squad. The flip side of all this is that it raises questions about United's recruitment. How did they sign Zirkzee if he doesn't fit what the manager wants? Was the signing made before Amorim arrived? Did someone not do their homework? These are concerning questions that United need to answer. But from Amorim's perspective, he's doing what he thinks is right. And that's what United hired him to do. The fan perspective. What are United supporters saying? The reaction from Manchester United fans to this news has been mixed. As always with United, you get a range of opinions. Some fans are disappointed. They feel like Zirkzee never really got a proper chance. They point out that he did well at Bologna, so he must have something to offer. They worry that United are being too hasty and that they'll regret selling him if he goes on to succeed elsewhere. There's a valid point there. United have a history of letting players go who then do well at other clubs. It's frustrating when it happens. Nobody wants to see Zirkzee scoring goals for a rival or even for a club in another league while United are struggling for goals. Other fans are more supportive of the decision. They trust Amorim's judgment. They figure that if the manager doesn't think Zirkzee fits, then he probably doesn't fit. They'd rather the club be decisive and move players on than keep them around out of some misguided sense of loyalty to a transfer fee. There's also a group of fans who are just frustrated with the whole situation. They see it as another example of poor planning by United. Why sign a player if you're not going to use him? Why waste money? Why can't United get their recruitment right? This frustration is understandable. United have spent huge amounts of money over the past decade with mixed results. Fans are tired of seeing expensive signings fail to work out. They want better decision-making at every level of the club. What's interesting is that very few fans seem to have strong personal feelings about Zirkzee himself. He hasn't been around long enough to build up a real connection with the fanbase. He hasn't scored important goals or had memorable moments. To most United fans, he's just another player who didn't work out. That's sad in a way, but it's also the reality of modern football. Players come and go quickly. Not everyone becomes a legend. Sometimes you're just not the right fit at the right time. How this compares to other recent United exits. To understand the Zirkzee situation properly, it helps to look at other players who've left United recently under similar circumstances. This gives us context for whether this is normal or unusual. Think about Donny van de Beek. He was another player who joined United with decent expectations and then barely played. He spent years on the bench before finally leaving. United held on to him far too long. His value dropped. His career stagnated. It was bad for everyone. The Zirkzee situation is different. United are acting quickly. They're not letting the problem drag on for years. They're being proactive. In that sense, this is an improvement over how United have handled similar situations in the past. Or look at someone like Alex Telles. He came to United, didn't really establish himself, and was eventually moved on. The difference there is that Telles was older and was always seen as more of a squad player. Zirkzee is younger and was expected to potentially be more important. Then there's the comparison to players like Anthony Martial or Jadon Sancho. These were players who United stuck with for a long time despite poor performances or problems. The club seemed reluctant to cut their losses. They kept hoping things would turn around. With Zirkzee, United aren't making that mistake. They're recognizing quickly that it's not working and dealing with it. Whether that's the right call or not remains to be seen, but at least they're being decisive. The pattern we're seeing is that under the new leadership structure with Amorim, United are being much more ruthless about squad management. They're not holding on to players out of hope or sentimentality. They're making hard decisions based on what's best for the team. Time will tell if this approach works better than the old way of doing things. But it's definitely a change in how United operate. The financial fair play angle. We need to talk about financial fair play because it's relevant to this story and to United's situation more broadly. Selling Zirkzee in January could help United's books in important ways. Financial fair play rules limit how much clubs can spend compared to their revenue. If you want to buy new players, you sometimes need to sell players first to balance the books. This is especially true for clubs like United who have spent heavily in recent years. By selling Zirkzee for £30 million, United generate income. That income can then be used to justify new signings. It creates room in the budget. It keeps the accountants happy. There's also the wage bill to consider. Every player at United is earning significant money. If Zirkzee is on, let's say, £100,000 per week, that's over £5 million per year in wages. Getting that off the wage bill creates more financial flexibility. United have been criticised in the past for having a bloated wage bill with too many highly paid players who aren't contributing. Trimming the squad helps fix that problem. This is part of the professionalization of United's operations under the new ownership structure. They're trying to run the club more efficiently. They're trying to make smarter financial decisions. Selling players who aren't playing is part of that. It's not the most romantic way to think about football. Fans don't like to think about their club as a business. But the reality is that financial management matters. Clubs that manage their money well tend to be more successful long-term. If United can sell Zirkzee for 30 million and then use that money to sign someone who better fits Amram's system, that's good business. That's smart management. That's what well-run clubs do. What happens if he stays? While all the reports suggest Zirkzee is leaving, we should consider the alternative scenario. What if no club meets United's asking price? What if a deal doesn't come together? What if Zirkzee is still at Old Trafford in February? This would be awkward for everyone. Zirkzee would know the club tried to sell him. That's not a good feeling. It would be hard for him to stay motivated and professional when he knows he's not wanted. Amram would have a player in his squad who doesn't fit his plans. That creates uncomfortable dynamics. Do you keep not playing him? Do you give him some minutes out of sympathy? It's a difficult situation to manage. United would have a depreciating asset. The longer Zirkzee sits on the bench, the lower his value becomes. By next summer, he might only be worth 20 million instead of 30 million. That's bad business. From a practical standpoint, everyone benefits if the move happens in January. That's why United are being proactive about it. They want to get it done quickly while there's still value to extract and while Zirkzee can still move to a club where he'll play. The January window is short though. There's only a few weeks to get deals done. Negotiations can be complicated. Medical examinations need to be completed. Personal terms need to be agreed. A lot has to happen in a short time. If I was betting, I'd say there's about a 70% chance Zirkzee leaves in January. The interest is there. The will from all parties is there. It's just a matter of getting the details right and getting a deal over the line. The bigger picture, United squad evolution. Taking a step back, the Zirkzee situation is part of a bigger story about how Manchester United squad is evolving. This isn't just about one player. It's about a whole new approach to building a team. When you look at United squad right now, you can see that changes are happening. Players who don't fit are being moved on. New players are being brought in. There's a clear out happening. This is necessary. United squad had become bloated with players signed by different managers for different systems. There was no coherence. No clear identity. Just a collection of talented individuals who didn't necessarily fit together. Amram is trying to create something more cohesive. He wants every player in the squad to fit his way of playing. He wants backups who can slot in without changing the system. He wants a lean, focused squad where everyone knows their role. This means some players have to go. Zirkzee is one. There will probably be others. Not because they're bad players, but because they don't fit what Amram is trying to build. In the long term, this should make United stronger. You're better off having 20 players who all fit your system than having 30 players where only half of them are useful. Quality over quantity. Coherence over star names. But in the short term, it creates stories like this. It creates headlines about players leaving. It creates debates about whether the right decisions are being made. That's the price of rebuilding. United fans need to be patient with this process. Building a team takes time. Getting recruitment right takes time. Creating a clear identity takes time. There will be bumps along the way. There will be players who don't work out. That's normal. The key is whether the overall direction is right. And if Amram's vision is clear and is being backed by the club, then yes, the direction is probably right even if individual decisions like selling Zirkzee might be debatable. What about United's attack going forward? If Zirkzee leaves, what does that mean for United's attacking options? Do they have enough depth? Are they leaving themselves short? According to the reports, United have already brought in Matheus Cunha, Benjamin Sesko, and Brian Bumo. These three players give Amram what he wants in attack. They're quick, direct, good at pressing, and they fit the system. If those three stay fit, United should be okay for attacking options. They can rotate between them depending on opponents and circumstances. They have enough variety to keep things fresh. But football is unpredictable. Injuries happen. Form dips. Suspensions occur. What if one of those three gets hurt for a few months? Does United have enough cover? This is where the Zirkzee sale becomes slightly risky. By moving him on, United are reducing their options. They're betting that the players they have will be enough. That's a gamble. However, Amram clearly believes it's a gamble worth taking. He'd rather have fewer options that fit his system than more options where some don't fit. He's confident in his preferred players and doesn't want to clutter the squad with alternatives who play differently. There's also the possibility that United could bring someone else in during January. If they sell Zirkzee for 30 million, they have money to spend on a replacement who better fits what Amorim wants. That would make more sense than just selling and leaving the squad short. We'll have to wait and see what United do. But the early signs suggest Amorim has a plan. He's not just randomly selling players. He's shaping the squad deliberately. The Dutch connection. What this means for future signings. Zirkzee's potential exit is interesting when you consider United's history with Dutch players. As I mentioned earlier, United have had some great Dutch players over the years. But they've also had some who didn't work out. Does the Zirkzee situation make United less likely to sign Dutch players in future? Will they be more cautious about players from the Eredivisie or from Dutch backgrounds? Probably not. Football clubs don't make decisions based on nationality. They make decisions based on individual players and whether they fit the needs of the team. But it is a reminder that not every signing works out. You can't just buy players from leagues or countries that have worked for you in the past and assume they'll all succeed. Each player is different. Each situation is unique. The key is proper scouting and proper integration. You need to understand not just what a player can do, but whether they can do it in your system, in your league, in your environment. United clearly didn't get that right with Zirkzee. Whether that's because the scouting was poor, or because circumstances changed with a new manager coming in, or because Zirkzee himself didn't adapt well, we don't know for sure. What matters now is learning from it. Making sure the next signings are better thought through. Making sure there's alignment between the recruitment team and the manager. Making sure players are signed because they fit a clear plan, not just because they're available or because they did well elsewhere. The World Cup factor. Why timing matters for Zirkzee. We've mentioned the World Cup a few times, but it's worth digging into this more because it's so important for understanding Zirkzee's situation. The 2026 World Cup is less than 2 years away. For any player with international ambitions, this is a huge deal. Playing in a World Cup is a dream. It's the pinnacle of football. You only get a few chances in your career. The Netherlands have a strong national team. They have lots of good forwards. Competition for places is intense. If you're not playing regularly for your club, you're not going to be selected for the national team. It's that simple. Zirkzee needs to be playing every week between now and summer 2026 if he wants to be on that plane to the World Cup. Every month he spends on United's bench is a month wasted. Every game he misses is a chance for someone else to impress the Dutch manager. This is why a January move is so crucial for him. If he waits until summer, he's wasted another 6 months. That's half a season gone. That's 20 or more games he could have played but didn't. From United's perspective, they might actually be doing Zirkzee a favor by facilitating his exit. They could force him to stay and rot on the bench. But what's the point? It's better for everyone if he goes somewhere he can play. This human element is easy to forget when we're talking about transfer fees and tactics and systems. But Zirkzee is a person with dreams and ambitions. The World Cup matters to him. His career matters to him. United letting him leave is the right thing to do. Comparing this to other top clubs. It's useful to look at how other top clubs handle situations like this. Does United's approach with Zirkzee match what we see elsewhere? Or is it unusual? Manchester City are ruthless about moving players on when they don't fit. They sell them quickly, often at a loss, and move on. They don't waste time with players who aren't in the manager's plans. Liverpool are similar. They've sold players like Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino when the time was right, even though they were club legends. They're unsentimental about squad management. Chelsea under their new ownership have been even more extreme. They've signed huge numbers of players and then moved on anyone who doesn't work out, sometimes after just months. It's been chaotic, but it shows a willingness to admit mistakes quickly. Arsenal under Mikel Arteta have been decisive too. They moved on players like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Mesut Ozil when relationships broke down, even though both were star names. In this context, United's handling of Zirkzee looks pretty normal. It's what successful clubs do. They don't hold on to players out of sentimentality or pride. They make tough decisions and move forward. The difference between United and these other clubs is that United are newer to this approach. For years, United held on to players too long. They gave them chance after chance. They were too patient. Now they're being more ruthless, and it probably feels jarring to some fans. But it's the right approach. If United want to compete with City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and the other top clubs, they need to operate like those clubs do. That means being decisive about signings that don't work out. The role of agents in all of this. Behind every transfer story, there are agents working in the background. They're the ones facilitating moves, negotiating deals, and making things happen. The Zirkzee situation is no different. Zirkzee's agent will be working hard right now to find him the best possible move. They'll be talking to clubs. They'll be presenting his qualities. They'll be negotiating terms. This is what agents do. From the agent's perspective, getting Zirkzee playing regularly is crucial not just for his career but also for future earnings. If Zirkzee does well at his next club, his value increases. That means bigger moves in future. That means bigger commissions for the agent. So the agent has every incentive to make this January move happen. They want to get Zirkzee into a situation where he can succeed. United side will also have people working on this. They'll be fielding calls from clubs. They'll be presenting Zirkzee to potential buyers. They'll be negotiating the best price they can get. The agent system in football gets criticized a lot, and sometimes rightly so. But in situations like this, agents actually serve a useful purpose. They're facilitating a move that benefits everyone. United get money. Zirkzee gets a fresh start. The buying club gets a player they want. Without agents to coordinate all of this, it would be much harder to get done. What we as fans see is just the end result. The reports about which clubs are interested, what the price might be, when a move might happen. But behind the scenes, there are countless phone calls, meetings, negotiations, and discussions happening. It's a complex process. What success looks like for all parties. Let's think about what a successful outcome would look like for everyone involved in this situation. For United, success means selling Zirkzee for close to their asking price and reinvesting that money wisely. It means trimming the squad appropriately without leaving themselves too short. It means showing they can make tough decisions efficiently. For Zirkzee, success means joining a club where he'll play regularly, rediscovering his best form, and putting himself in position to make the Netherlands World Cup squad. It means resurrecting his career after this setback. For the buying club, success means getting a talented player at a reasonable price who improves their team. It means taking advantage.